Hi guys, and welcome to another Thoughtscapes. Firstly, please do me a big favor, subscribe down below. Also like this video if you get to the end and you like the content, and also comment as well if you have any other comments. Let's get cracking with the topic of the video. First and foremost, this video is about how to hold your own in a male-dominated environment, and one way is to wear red, because red is a power color and you want to show them boys that you mean business. I'm only joking. I just decided to wear red today because, you know, we're talking about dominance, dominating in a male environment. Red is a power color, first and foremost, but I don't advise you to go into your work constantly wearing red. That's not the way that you're going to gain respect from your male counterparts. But I just wanted to wear red because it's a power color, and we're talking about being tough here and holding your own. But red might not be your color, so we got to find other ways of navigating this very... It's not difficult. We're trying to navigate what could be potentially a sensitive topic for some people. Being a woman just automatically means that you have to work a bit more harder and a bit more smarter than men, especially if you have managed to end up working in a very male-dominated environment. So I'm going to give you some tips, not just based on personal experience, but it's also based on research and asking around people that I know who have experienced such issues. All the nuggets that I have amassed and collected for you guys. Don't be a yes woman or a gopher. If you know that you are being taken advantage of because you are the only woman in the vicinity and the rules that they apply to you don't seem to be the same rules that they apply for the other guys, hold your own down, ladies. If there are guys asking you to make cups of tea, ask them, is there a particular reason why you can't do it yourself? I'm sure they won't be able to come back with a good enough answer for you, so politely decline and say no.
Oh, hell no.
Don't be fearful of you getting into trouble for that, because you have done nothing wrong. If someone's asked you to make a cup of tea and you know it's because you're the only girl, they haven't asked anyone else who could perfectly also make a cup of tea, or they can make a cup of tea themselves, then you are within your own right to decline, and you won't get in trouble for that. And if you do, that's not a company that you should be working for. And as you can see, I'm already kind of feeling a little bit like defensive here, but you know, I'm a woman and I face these things, so be confident and assertive. Know what you're talking about. Know the insides and outsides of the topic that you're talking about, so you can talk with confidence and assertiveness about it. That way you are not going to be an easy target to dismiss, because they will respect you because you know what you're talking about. And funnily enough, I learnt this little tidbit that men are twice as likely to ask for a raise than women, because men feel that they deserve it. They don't have those inhibitions or insecurities about asking for a raise, but women do tend to second guess themselves. Don't be an easy target to dismiss. Be clear and concise with your communications. If you're trying to express your point, back it up with a why. Why are you doing this certain thing? Why are you asking them for a favor? Why have you decided to take this action? Why did you decide to make this decision? Be clear and concise. Also, make yourself heard. If you have something to say and you know it's valid, please do not be a shrinking violet, because you have that knowledge in your head. Express it, showcase it. And one thing I can't stand, and this used to happen to me a lot at the beginning of my career because I was a little bit more inhibited, but thankfully through the female role models in my life I quickly nipped that in the bud. But what used to happen was I would be talking and I would get interrupted by male counterparts. And that used to just annoy me so much that I quickly learnt to take control of the situation. When they butted in, I said, excuse me, could I finish my point first? But sometimes I had to be a little bit more political. If they did butt in, I'll let them finish their point, but as soon as they're done, I'll say, okay, well, can I resume my point now? Also, everyone knows that it's rude to interrupt. So when you do call them out kind of like that, not directly call them out, but to say, excuse me, could I finish my point? You're clearly stating that someone's interrupted you, and everyone in that meeting should know that it's rude to interrupt. So they will let you carry on with your point. And it also sends a very clear message to the person who's interrupted you, as well as everyone else in the room, that you're not going to tolerate being interrupted. Okay, this isn't exclusive to women, it also applies to men, everyone. It is normal to get emotional, but please do not make decisions based on your emotions, because you will tend to act out in your emotion and you could make an irrational decision or an action. So one thing I've learned is to communicate forward. Instead of dwelling on the negativity, i.e. there's a problem, it's causing me delays, I can't fix it right now. You should instead focus on resolving the problems. I know how to fix it. This is a timeline in which it will be fixed. I will get back to you. And that is a much better approach to resolving disagreements rather than focusing on the negative. And ladies, please accept a compliment. A lot of women, I have come to find out, are very shy about receiving compliments. When they receive a compliment, they're so quick to project it onto everyone else, like, oh, you did a great job. No, it was the team's. Please acknowledge that someone has complimented you. Accept it kindly. Say something like, thank you very much. I did work hard on it. But also, don't just hog all the limelight. You do have to give credit to other people, but definitely bask in it for a minute before you're so quick to project the acknowledgement onto the rest of your team. Don't feel inferior to those around you. Remember, you are good enough. If you weren't good enough, you would have never got this job. You wouldn't be in that role. You wouldn't be in that team. So don't second guess yourself like that. I think most of the time it's a psychological thing. People tend to undermine themselves more than they overestimate themselves. So what you think is you doing really badly in your job, I can guarantee that 90% of the time, other people don't think the same. Don't be afraid or shy away from adding your feminine perspective to the mix. Men and women's minds work very differently, and you can add a very different spin to a problem or a scenario that men haven't even thought of, and that will challenge them and it will give them something to think about. And when you do challenge a guy, I find that it has always gained more respect. Networking is so important. Get to know your colleagues outside of the working environment. Get to know them as people. Try to find some commonality outside of work to bond over. Bob Rogers from IT in his 60s who has grandchildren. You've never talked about anything outside of work, but then one night you discover at the pub quiz that you both like Game of Thrones. Well, build more of a bond and a relationship outside of work on that. One thing I know, and I know very well, is that people love to talk about themselves. If you give them the platform to talk about themselves, it's going to endear you to them. So even if you struggle through an hour-long conversation with a person that you discovered at the end of that hour that you still have nothing in common with, for the fact that you gave them an hour of your time, that's going to soften their attitude towards you. And to be honest, I think they're going to give you all the time in the world after that. And ladies, get yourself a mentor, preferably a female one, because what she will help you do is navigate the environment, share her experiences, give you advice. She can even lend you a helping hand, and she will have far more experience at navigating this environment than you do. I remember very early on in my career when I was quite shy, and my manager at the time was a woman who was very much a powerhouse. She wore the trousers in the whole office. She took me aside once and she said, "You're doing a great job, but I feel you can do more. I feel that there's a fire in you. You can be a lot more authoritative. You tend to shy away a lot." And at first I reacted really negatively to this. I thought it was a criticism and it was a surprise because I didn't recognize it in myself. But it took her to recognize that in me and for her to tell me, otherwise I would have never known. And from that point on, she was the one who helped shape and develop me. She gave me confidence to talk with a little bit more authority, to feel confident in myself and what I was saying. And from then on, my confidence just grew and grew and grew. She was pivotal in my career because if she hadn't told me that, maybe to this day, I could be that person who doesn't exude that confidence and that vibrance in the workplace that I do now. So what you think is your biggest weakness, i.e. being a female in a male-dominated environment, is actually your biggest strength. Ladies, you got this. Girls. Done. Welcome to another Thoughtscapes. Working male dominated. If there are men taking the beep excuse me, could I finish my point? My point